discover the incredible response that shattered me one day before my brother's wedding, an unexpected inheritance. The moment I opened the letter, my heart dropped, spiraling into a whirlpool of disbelief. The elegant script declared I was the sole heir to a piece of our father's past, property buried under years of animosity and hurt. How could this happen now, on the eve of Jake's wedding? A mixture of anxiety and excitement coursed through me, and I could hardly breathe. With a whirlwind of wedding decorations around me, I plunged deeper into the chaos of conflicting feelings. The laughter of family filled the air while I stared at the letter crumpled in my hands. Could a piece of land truly alter the course of my life? There was an unsettling potential for a brighter future, one where I was free from the chains of constant sacrifice. Yet the specter of our family legacy loomed over me, threatening to unravel everything I held dear. Should I reveal this news before the wedding, risking arguments and devastating the joyful atmosphere, or keep it buried, maintaining the peace but sacrificing my own dreams? As I pressed the letter into my pocket and returned to organizing flowers, I could feel the tension bubbling inside me, knotting my stomach. I glanced at Jake, blissfully immersed in last-minute details, unaware of my internal storm. For years, I had put everything aside for my family. I often brushed past my own ambitions, but now they clawed at my thoughts. What good were dreams if they only faded into the background of someone else's happiness? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The hours dragged on, my heart racing as I attempted to weave through the celebrations, my brother's laugh echoing around me. I could hardly focus beneath the weight of the letter pressing on my conscience. I should protect my brother's day, but what about my battle for autonomy? Suddenly, Jake found me alone in the back garden, his eyes searching. "You've been distant," he said, his brow furrowing in concern. The love I saw in his expression twisted like a knife. How could I let him see this schism growing between us? He stepped closer, concern etched in his features. But I felt the draw of old wounds, our father's secrets gnawing at the edges of our bond. "Jake," I began, unsure how to untangle my heart, twisting with emotions I feared could fracture the very foundation we had built together. The weight of the truth was threatening to crush me, and the thought of talking about my inheritance felt like holding a lit match too close to dry leaves. Should I cast the first spark, risking everything for what might fizzle out, or plunge into silence and watch dreams suffocate? Just when I was ready to share everything, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket, pulling me back from the abyss. A message from the old family friend appeared, the last piece to a puzzle I wasn't sure I wanted to complete. As I stood before my brother, so close and yet worlds apart, I hesitated, the air thick with unspoken questions, wondering if unveiling this secret would lead to liberation or destruction. The moment the phone buzzed, I felt a rush of confusion and urgency. I quickly withdrew it from my pocket, glancing at the screen. The message was from Mr. Halpern, our father's old business partner, a man whose presence had always seemed to carry the weight of unresolved matters. "Important news regarding the estate," it read. My heart raced, caught between the exhilaration of potential clarity and the dread of uncovering more burdens. "Who was that?" Jake asked, peering over my shoulder, his good-natured curiosity catching me off guard. I slipped the phone back into my pocket, forcing a casual smile. "Just a work thing," I lied, masking my internal tumult. A wave of guilt washed over me. I was perpetuating the very conflicts I dreaded. "Come on, it's my wedding day. You should be celebrating," he said, his voice laced with brotherly encouragement. I wanted to embrace that joy, to bask in the warmth of familial love engulfing us. Yet I felt the chains of my father's legacy tightening around me. I will. Just needed a moment to gather my thoughts, I replied, hoping I sound more genuine than I felt. The surroundings had brightened. Family members danced cheerfully. Light laughter floated on the evening breeze. However, I couldn't lose myself in the happy chaos. The letter weighed heavy in my mind. The inheritance could be a door to my own identity, the autonomy I'd craved for so long, as the celebration swirled around me. External joy contrasted sharply with my internal struggle. I glanced around, observing the joy radiating from faces I loved but felt distant from. Was I not entitled to that same happiness? What would it mean to step into my inheritance? On one hand, it was a tether to our father and the complexities he left us with. On the other, it was a glimmer of possibility, an escape route from years of feeling overshadowed. Jake deserved to own his moment, but I wondered if suppressing this vital part of myself would eventually push me into deeper resentment. Just then, the music shifted to a slower melody, and couples began to sway. Under normal circumstances, I'd be eager to join in, but the tension within me was unyielding. The thought of my own dreams becoming flesh felt tantalizing, yet terrifying. Could a plot of land really alter my fundamental reality? I had to face a decision, one that would impact my relationship with Jake and my sense of self. Did I honor the past, or seize the moment to reclaim my future? My heart raced at the thought of discovering what this inheritance intended for me, yet my conscience cautioned against stirring familial chaos now. Of all times, the melody of the song broke the trance, and I made my decision. Instead of curling inward, I step outward, force myself into the celebration, even if my heart wasn't entirely in it. I took a deep breath, ready to join Jake and the family, until another buzz broke through the dance floor, noise Mr. Halpern's name again flashing across my screen. I hesitated, the weight of the moment sinking in. Maybe this was the catalyst I needed to confront everything I had been suppressing. My future awaited me, but could I afford to reach for it without shattering what I held dear? As I took my brother's hand and felt the warmth of family around me, I knew some roles were shifting, and soon I would need to step into a confrontation not just with the past, but with myself. The reckoning was approaching, and I could no longer avoid it. I felt the deep thrum of anticipation. Soon, I would have to decide which path to follow, and the stakes were mounting. What if this was the key to understanding not only our father's legacy, but also my own burgeoning identity? The time had come to face it, whatever it might reveal. The music around me faded into a distant hum, the cheerful atmosphere morphing into a suffocating weight pressing against my chest. I could almost hear the shrill vibrations of my own heartbeat as I mulled over Mr. Halpern's message. It was as if the fabric of my reality began to unravel. My father's legacy, a complex jumble of love, regret, and unaddressed conflict, suddenly felt all-consuming. Withdrawing from my brother's embrace, I stepped outside onto the dimly lit porch, the cool air hitting my face like a shocking splash of cold water. I glanced back into the room, where laughter and dancing continued, but I felt detached, as if I were peering through a glass wall separating me from celebration. The phone buzzed again, a reminder of the unanswered questions that loomed over me. Important news regarding the estate. The words echoed like a haunting refrain, and I clenched my fist, desperate to regain control over my situation. What if the estate held not just property, but unfulfilled potential? Maybe it could pave a path to a life I had always dreamed of, but never dared to chase. I could feel an undercurrent of determination rising within me, urging me to break free from the confines of familial expectations. Yet alongside that hope surged a fear, a nagging feeling that delving into the estate would erupt into conflict. I had witnessed too many family gatherings dissolve into arguments. How could I risk that? Taking slow, deliberate breaths, I faced the reality of my choice, wrestled with the pull of my inheritance and the fear of rejection. It was a high-stakes game, and my heart admonished me. If I did nothing, would I simply replay the story laid out for me, one that left me feeling frustrated and overshadowed? My brother's wedding was supposed to mark a new chapter for him. But wouldn't it also be a point of reckoning for me? With newfound resolve, I pulled my phone from my pocket, thumb hovering over Mr. Halpern's name. I could reach out, set the wheels in motion, armed with both fear and hope. But before I pressed send, I realized I wouldn't merely be shaping my own future. I held the potential to shift Jake's perception of me. Would he see me as the sibling who sought her own path, or as a self-centered character driven by selfish aspirations? I thought of our father again, the man he had always been, and the complexities of his legacy. I could no longer carry that burden quietly. I needed clarity. "Hey, you coming back in?" Jake's voice cut softly through my thoughts, reminding me of the warmth and connection I didn't want to sever. For him, this day was momentous, but my revelation loomed large. I turned to face him, a determined glint igniting in my eyes. "I need to talk to Mr. Halpern," I said, revealing the fissures of my intent. He froze for a moment, registering my words. "Tonight?" "Yes. I can't wait any longer. It's time I take charge of my life." He nodded slowly, his brows furrowing as he considered the implications. "Just don't let it ruin your night. Promise?" A weight settled on me, an acknowledgement of our bond and the precarious balance I was about to disrupt. I promised Jake, but deep down, I knew the collision of my past and future was inevitable. I started to head back inside. A strange mix of excitement and trepidation coursed through me. The night would change everything. My actions might either fortify our bonds or reveal rifts I'd never anticipated. The moment had selected me. I had no option but to embrace the truth of my father's legacy. And in doing so, I sensed the first stirrings of a new identity. How could I confront Mr. Halpern's revelations when I hadn't even completely confronted myself? With the door beckoning me back in the lively fray, I hesitated once more. My future stood before me like a well-worn path tangled with thorns, beckoning me to step forward into the unknown. Would I walk that path alone, or would it ultimately reshape my relationship with Jake and the family I loved? The answer awaited me, still locked behind those words on my phone. Tomorrow held the promise of clarity, but right now I had to face Jake and a reality I had put aside for too long. The following day began with an unsettling quiet. Light filtered through the curtains, brightening the room in a way that felt cruel against the weight of unresolved tensions. I stared at the ceiling, my thoughts a chaotic web of excitement and anxiety. The conversation with Mr. Halpern loomed large, each possible outcome echoing in my mind. Would I finally piece together my father's legacy, or would I unravel my brother's trust in the process? As I prepared for the day, I kept replaying last night's fervent declarations. This was supposed to be a week of celebration, but I felt like a rogue element, a hurricane brewing within a still sea. I couldn't shake the idea that my decisions now could alter not just my path, but also the fabric of our family, that I pulled on a simple dress, dismissing each piece of clothing that could draw attention away from my purpose. The dress was a reminder of the confines. I felt I had always been the steady one, the one who blended in. But I would no longer hide behind layers of expectation. I was preparing for a confrontation that might shatter my carefully constructed world. The morning stretched on with painful slowness. Each tick of the clock mocked my simmering urgency. I found myself pacing the quiet living room, agonizing over the balance between duty to my family and honoring my own aspirations. I needed a strategy. Walking into Mr. Halpern's office today would be like stepping onto a battlefield not with weapons, but with words and intentions that could pierce through the peace I'd long dulled. When the time finally arrived, a sense of clarity enveloped me. As I gripped the steering wheel, I told myself that every drive was an opportunity, not a burden. I mapped the journey to Mr. Halpern's office, envisioning his worn yet reassuring presence, even if our discussions had been rife with complications. Each turn was accompanied by a string of affirmations. I was not just stepping into an office, but into my own agency. Upon arrival, I hesitated outside the door, my heart hammering against my ribcage. Memories flooded back, my father sharing stories about legacy with Mr. Halpern, instructing him to guide us as if we were not just heirs but deserving recipients of something precious. I took a deep breath, forcing the doubts aside. The door creaked open, and I stepped into the room. Mr. Halpern looked up from his desk, surprise flickering in his eyes before he masked it with professionalism. "Good morning. I didn't expect to see you so soon," he said, motioning for me to take a seat. I sat, grounding myself in the weight of the moment. "Mr. Halpern, I received your message last night." He nodded. "I think it's time we discuss the estate in detail, don't you?" "Yes," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "But first, I need to understand everything. What does that message truly mean for me, for Jake, and for our family?" He leaned back, his expression shifting to one of gravity. "There are aspects of your father's estate that go beyond tangible assets. It's a legacy tied to choices, dreams, and perhaps a few secrets." The word secrets struck me. My heart raced, and the world outside dimmed. The stakes had suddenly risen. Did my father leave not just resources, but puzzles sheathed in enigmas? "Go on," I urged, leaning forward, the tension coiling within me, intensifying. "You might find that your father was planning something for both you and Jake, something that could redefine your roles within the family." He continued. The implications hit like a bolt of lightning, unveiling layers of potential I hadn't considered before. How could a legacy reshape our identities, challenge our beliefs, and redefine our greatest fears? "What do you mean, redefine?" I pressed, the words escaping my lips before I could temper them. Dottamar. Halpern glanced at me, measuring his response with the caution of a seasoned negotiator. "Your father believed in second chances, and this is yours." As those words hung in the air, I felt time freeze. A rush of urgency flooded my veins, igniting the potential for a radical shift, not just for myself, but for Jake, our family, and the future I had once deemed inaccessible. Had I just glimpsed the path that could lead me out of the shadows? The answer to that question loomed large, and the implications struck like thunderclaps in a storm. Before I could process the enormity of what lay ahead, I felt the ground beneath me shift. Would this newfound understanding challenge my relationship with Jake? Would it tear at our already fragile familial ties? In that moment, I knew I was at the precipice of my own transformation. I would have to confront the very foundations of my identity and what it meant to be my father's daughter. "Are you prepared for what lies ahead?" Mr. Halpern's voice was steady, beckoning me toward an uncertain horizon. With uncertainty and ambition swirling within, I focused on the challenges revealed by the shifting shadows of my father's legacy. How could I deconstruct the beliefs that had long held me captive while strengthening my bond with Jake? As I opened my mouth to respond, unsure of the words that would escape me, I suddenly had the urge to do more than just speak. I wanted to take action bold, decisive, and unwavering. But first, I needed to uncover the truth hidden amongst the secrets. Tomorrow's revelations would either fortify my resolve or push me further into despair. As I steeled myself for the impending storm, I realized one undeniable truth. I was ready to confront whatever shadows lay ahead, knowing that the legacy of my father had finally ignited a flame within me. What was the secret my father had left behind? And would I have the strength to unveil it, knowing that it could forever change my family? The room felt charged, heavy with unspoken possibilities. Mr. Halpern's gaze bore into me, not just as a lawyer, but as a gatekeeper of my father's legacy. I was now acutely aware that this conversation was not merely about inheritance or estate assets, but about the very essence of who I was and who I could become. "Your father wanted you to lead with strength," he began, his voice a blend of professional detachment and personal reverence. "He had faith that you and Jake could shoulder this legacy together. However, it seems there was a nuance to his planning that might surprise you both." The revelations were brushing against a door I had never thought to open. What did my father envision? Was it possible there were pieces of visions and dreams living somewhere within me that I had yet to tap into? I felt vulnerable and simultaneously empowered. It was terrifying to think of losing the stability I had clung to, yet exhilarating to imagine what lay beyond it. What do you mean by redefine? I asked, leaning forward again, my anticipation palpable. Was it truly something that could challenge my identity? Or Jake S. Mr. Halpern nodded slowly, considering his words as if each syllable carried the weight of generations. Yes, your father believed in transformation, especially when it came to legacy. These secrets were intended for moments of strife, a roadmap to self-discovery and reconciliation. He thought one day you both might need a guide. Concern festered within me. But what if uncovering these secrets creates more conflict? Jake may not understand or accept my decisions. Conflict often leads to clarity, he replied firmly. In some cases, it forms the very foundation upon which relationships are rebuilt. His words struck me like a drumbeat, marking a rhythm of inevitable confrontation that I adjusted in my seat, grappling with the implications of both our potential futures. The idea that our identities were not static, but could shift through unforeseen challenges beckoned to me. It was an awakening I had not expected to undergo, a chilling yet exhilarating invitation to take control of my destiny. What is the first step? I asked, a mix of excitement and dread coursing through me. Mr. Halpern leaned forward, his expression earnest. You must confront the secrets themselves. Tomorrow, I have a folder containing documents that outline your father's wishes and plans for both of you. It's time to bring them to light. The thought was daunting. What if the contents of that folder shattered my worldview, or worse, tore my relationship with Jake apart? And if this leads to realization that Jake and I want different things, then you must embrace that possibility, he urged. To honor your father's legacy fully means to pursue the truth, regardless of the outcome. His words resonated deep within me, filling the cracks in my resolve with resolve itself. I could feel the shifting of tides, the very foundations of my identity trembling in the wake of this challenge. The time had come to not just be a daughter, but a leader within my family and architect of our future. After we discussed logistical details about when I could pick up the folder, I left his office, my heart racing with both fear and determination. Each step towards my car felt heavy with the weight of expectation, not just from my family, but from within myself. I drove home. The hum of the engine was drowned out by a torrent of questions. What decisions would I have to make once I unveiled the details of my father's plans? Would Jake accept the growing divide between our aspirations? More importantly, could I confront the discomfort of my brother's potential anger should my choices lead down paths uncharted? The approaching questions felt ominous, casting shadows longer than the sunset. Yet beneath that uncertainty, a glimmer of excitement flickered. I realized I was finally choosing to approach my life, my family dynamics, and my identity with the fierce intention that had long been dormant. Arriving home, I glanced in the mirror, searching not for answers, but affirmations that I was ready to pursue this chapter of my life unapologetically. I wasn't just stepping into my father's shoes. I was ready to carve my own path, even if it meant confronting the hardest truth. I settled into my evening routine. I found my thoughts racing, and then a single realization emerged, striking like a lightning bolt. Not just about what my father had left behind, or how I would navigate my relationship with Jake, but about my own values and convictions. Would I stand firm in seeking the truth, or would I withdraw into comfort, preserving the status quo? The answers felt cruelly intertwined with what I would learn tomorrow. There, in the quiet of my room, I vowed silently that I would face whatever was laid out before me. I needed that folder, and more importantly, I needed clarity. Would my father's legacy ignite the fierce spirit within me? Or would it expose truths too painful to bear? Tomorrow awaited me with both dread and promise, and I could not turn away from the path before me anymore. Perhaps this was the moment to reclaim my power, enabling me to navigate the uncharted seas of family conflict and personal growth. What awaited me beyond those papers could spiral into chaos or usher in healing. Either way, I was ready to embrace the unfolding narrative of my life. The shadows of the evening stretched long as I sat in my quiet room, the anticipation of the next day weighing heavily on my mind. The folder lay before me on the desk, an innocuous yellow envelope that felt like a Pandora's box packed with the weight of my father's expectations and dreams. I couldn't shake off the sense that tomorrow would tilt the axis of my life, transforming everything I thought I knew. With an unsteady resolve, I focused my thoughts. There were two distinct parts of me wrestling for control: the daughter eager to please her family, and the leader. I yearned to become someone who could navigate the rough waters of my father's legacy without losing herself. It felt like standing at the edge of a precipice, unsure whether to leap or retreat. Sleep eluded me that night. The minutes ticked by, stretching into hours as uncertainty coiled tighter around my stomach. I thought of Jake and his imminent wedding, a day that should be filled with joy tainted now by the specter of our family's unresolved tensions. Would our father's secrets unravel the fabric of our relationship? Or was this the key that would sew our frayed ties back together? Morning finally broke, soft and unforgiving, bathing my room in pale light. I squared my shoulders while pulling on a simple blouse, an outfit meant to project calmness, yet tightly held the weight of my apprehension. Today was destined to challenge what I thought I understood about myself and my family. Mr. Halpern's office. The moment felt suspended in time, laden with significance. I took a deep breath as I entered, spotting the yellow envelope lying atop his desk. It was as if it pulsed with life, beckoning me closer, a siren call to confront my fears. "Are you ready?" Mr. Halpern's question broke through the haze of my contemplation. The way he looked at me suggested he could see the turmoil brewing beneath my surface, knew the importance of the moment. I nodded, though my throat felt tight. I reached for the envelope, fingers trembling slightly as I pulled it closer. The contents inside remained a mystery, each paper a potential revelation that could fracture or fortify my family connection. "We can go through this together," Hallie, Mr. Halpern offered, but I shook my head. This was something I needed to face on my own, no mediator standing between me and the truth. As I opened the envelope, each document seemed to breathe a history known only to my father, one that thundered with the choices he made and the values he held dear. The first sheet was a letter addressed to me and Jake, words carefully penned. His voice echoed from the past, wise yet tinged with vulnerability. My father's final plea for us to honor one another resonated deeply. He expressed hope that we would be brave enough to face whatever challenges might come our way. "Redefine your paths," he encouraged, "but do not abandon your bond." Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes, the weight of his love mingling with the gravity of his request. It was a call to action, a challenge to see beyond our current perspectives and the roles we had been confined to. Flipping through the pages, I discovered plans meticulously laid out, business ventures he had hoped to pass down, ambitions that had once felt like distant dreams. Yet intertwined with those dreams were stipulations. My heart raced. These aspirations were not aligned perfectly with who Jake or I had become. Will we have to pivot our lives entirely? This is not about fulfilling his vision fully, I whispered to myself, the words falling like a mantra. It was about unearthing the self buried beneath years of compliance and expectation. With each revelation, the fear of confronting Jake loomed larger. While the potential for conflict was intimidating, underneath it all lurked a different truth, the possibility for profound healing. What if through our shared legacy, Jake and I could redefine not just our roles, but our entire relationship? The enormity of that realization slapped me awake. I needed to brace myself for the conversations ahead, to navigate this journey, not just as a follower of legacy, but as a creator of my own. As I folded the papers back together, a new determination filled me. I would face Jake, and despite the script written for us by our father's dreams, it was time to rewrite our own narrative altogether, not merely in adherence to the past, but driven by the authentic selves we long to become. Today, I would not just reclaim my power, I would challenge the status quo. But would Jake perceive my intentions as an act of love or an unwarranted betrayal? The path forward was rocky, and yet the anticipation of discovery surged within me. Whatever happened next would forever alter the landscape of our family. And as I left the office, stepping into the day, the world felt different, charged with the electricity of potential. The conversation with Jake awaited like a storm on the horizon. Would he embrace this chance to heal or resist the winds of change? The drive to Jake's place felt laden with implications, each mile stretching my determination against the uncertainty of our family dynamics. The car hummed beneath me like an anxious heart, each thrum matching the anxiety churning in my stomach. As I gripped the steering wheel, thoughts wrestled in my mind. What would I say? How could I present the revelations I unearthed? Would he comprehend my need for clarity beyond our father's expectations? Pulling into the driveway, I noticed the familiar trees that lined our childhood home, their branches perched like silent witnesses. Suddenly, the comfort of nostalgia tangled with a sharp sense of dread. The legacy I felt tethered to was grounded in love, yet burdened with unspoken grievances. Today, I would shift the narrative as I approached the door. I rehearsed my plea. I wanted reconciliation, an unburdening of suppressed emotions, yet every word felt congested in my throat. The breaths I took were slow, deliberate, but offered no quick fixes. When Jake answered the door, his smile faltered. A momentary flicker of apprehension passed through his eyes. He sensed the weight of the conversation before it began. "Hey, Hallie," he greeted, stepping aside. "Hey, Jake," I replied, forcing myself to step over the threshold and into the realm of the unknown. That we sat in the living room, a mosaic of memories. Sunlight streamed through the window, casting a golden hue over the well-worn furniture. Suddenly, the familiar space felt foreign, charged with anticipation. "Is everything all right?" Jake queried, the concern laced in his voice revealing a hint of the brother I cherished. I hesitated, memories of shared laughter and sibling quarrels swirling. "No," I confessed, the admission raw. "Not really." The words tumbled out, a declaration rather than a question. I took a deep breath, heart racing. "I found some things in Dad's papers today, things he planned for us." A shadow crossed Jake's face, discontent brewing beneath a veil of confusion. "What do you mean? Plans for the business? Expectations for both of us?" And in the letter, he urged us to honor our bond. I emphasized, my grip tightening on the arm of the chair. "But it feels like he's dictating our paths instead of letting us choose our own." Jake bristled, leaning back. "He wanted us to succeed, Hallie. It's what families do. Success, or what he envisioned for us." I countered, voice firm yet pleading. "I'm scared that we're losing ourselves in trying to meet his dreams. What if we redefine our legacy based on who we are now, not who he wanted us to be?" A bead of silence hung in the air like unspoken words. His defenses bubbled to the surface. Eyes reflected a mix of irritation and surprise. "So you want to throw it all away? Just because you feel pressured?" I sighed, frustration colliding with empathy. "It's not about throwing anything away, Jake. It's about realizing that we deserve to pursue what makes us happy together. I think we need to have this conversation, regardless of what it reveals." He considered my words, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. What lay beneath all these emotions was a profound love. Our shared history was both a playground and a battlefield. I needed him to understand why this mattered so deeply, why forging our own identities was essential. "Look," I continued, heart racing, "I'm not asking you to abandon our father's dreams. I'm asking for permission to carve our voices into this legacy. Wouldn't it be powerful to become the architects of our own futures? We can still be brothers, united by our past and empowered by our choices." A storm brewed behind Jake's eyes. He leaned forward, perhaps sensing the churning emotions beneath both our surfaces. "What if I don't want to redefine things? What if I'm fine with the way things are?" The question echoed across the room like a challenge. In that moment, I had a choice, to push further or to retreat into silence. I swallowed, feeling the gravity of the impending rupture. There was no turning back now. These words were meant to resonate. Then let's talk about it, I urged. Let us explore why you feel that way. But we have to be honest with each other what we truly want, not just what is expected. I can't walk this path without you. Tenaciously, I held his gaze, praying he would take the leap alongside me. The air thickened, both palpable and fragile. Each second felt like an eternity trapped somewhere between fear and hope. Would he break under the weight of tradition or seize the opportunity? Hallie Jake's voice trailed off, weighed down by unvoiced fears. As a silence encased us, it became clear we were not just discussing choices, but the very essence of our identities. This conversation felt like standing at the edge of an abyss. One step forward could lead to healing, while another could fracture everything we had held dear. The moment hung precariously in the balance. Would Jake's next words become the foundation of our renewed bond, or would they solidify the chasm between us? Only time would tell. But each heartbeat ushered in a new sense of urgency, and beneath it all, the echo of our father's hope lingered, urging us towards something greater. The tension in the room pressed in on me like a heavy fog. My heart thudded loudly, and I could sense the milliseconds stretching out, each one like a grain of sand slipping through an hourglass. Jake's expression shifted, revealing the chaotic thoughts hidden beneath his composed exterior. This wasn't merely a discussion about dreams. It was an uncharted territory of vulnerability I had never wanted to enter. His silence hung in the air, thick with implications. I studied him, searching for signs of where this might lead. I know you love Dad and respect what he has built. I do too, I venture cautiously. But I also think there's room for us to embrace our own ambitions, to find our own paths. Hallie, Jake finally said, his voice strained. You have no idea how hard Dad worked. Everything he has done, he did it for us. To give us a life, a future. His eyes were unwavering, but I could see a spark of uncertainty flickering behind them. Exactly. He did it for us, which means we get to choose what that future looks like now, I argued, feeling the familiar fire ignite in my chest. We don't have to be confined to a design that doesn't fit us anymore. It's our turn to decide. My words were a mixture of defiance and hope, fueled by a necessity I hadn't fully recognized until this moment. Jake's brow creased. And what if I want to take on that legacy? What if it brings me joy? What if I feel tied to it? My resolve wavered. The doubt creeping in threatened to shatter my courage like glass. I took a steadying breath, knowing I needed a better way to express my thoughts. Wanting something doesn't mean you have to forsake who you are, Jake. I'm not trying to tear down what Dad built. I'm asking for us to build something new on top of it together. What do you mean? He inquired cautiously, his skepticism visible yet tempered by a hint of curiosity. I seized the moment, pouring out the thoughts that had been burning in my chest. I mean that we could keep the business, preserve it as a legacy, but also infuse new life into it. We can innovate together. We're stronger as partners than as divided siblings trying to live up to a singular idea. I watched as Jake's brow furrowed deeper, his jaw clenched. It was clear he was wrestling with the dichotomy of tradition versus individuality. You want to change everything because you feel suffocated? He challenged, a storm brewing in his voice. It isn't just about feeling suffocated. It's about exploring the identities we have today, I replied firmly. We owe it to ourselves and to each other to face this together. For the first time, I felt a sense of empowerment coursing through me. I was standing up for myself and my beliefs. It was liberating, but the fear of losing him loomed large. You could choose to follow a path I don't understand, and that frightens me, he confessed, his armor cracking just a little. I don't want to lose who we are, but isn't that equally as terrifying? I pressed gently, reaching for empathy amidst the confusion. Can't we allow ourselves to evolve? A long silence followed, this time punctuated by breaths laden with uncertainty. I could see him grappling with worries both real and imagined. Then, as if the weight of generations hung over us, Jake finally spoke again. So where do we go from here? If I agree to this, change you're proposing, it could lead to everything we've known unraveling. Each word dripped with anxiety. Yet inwardly, I recognized this was the pivotal juncture, the moment where I could reveal the depths of my commitment. We take it step by step, I replied, my voice steady. We can start a conversation about our roles, about what we want from this life, while keeping our Father's teachings in mind. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. Jake's expression shifted, hinting at acceptance laced with fear. You're suggesting that we team up to navigate these expectations? Exactly, I said, banking on his willingness to compromise. But I need to know you're with me. This requires full honesty and faith in each other's ambitions and dreams. He hesitated, a cocktail of emotions swirling in his eyes. The decision was mine to push him further or allow this moment to slip away. Watching him struggle with the weight of the legacy, I was struck by my own identity and purpose. Jake, I can't implore you to do this forever. I don't want to only be Hallie, the daughter of a businessman. I want to be Hallie, a person able to forge her own path alongside her brother. Jake's gaze softened, and I could see the internal cogs in his mind turning. All right, he murmured, appearing worn yet willing. I'll embark on this journey with you. Let us begin exploring our family legacy reimagined. As we breathed through the tension surrounding us, I understood both the challenge and the liberation I faced. This was only the beginning. I just hope we don't lose ourselves in the process, he warned. We won tea, I promised, though I felt the uncertainties still lurking. Together, we were setting off into an unknown future, but it was ours to define. Just then, the phone buzzed between us, jolting us from our contemplative moment. My heart stalled. It was a message from our father, a reminder about the quick meeting regarding the upcoming wedding plans, a wedding I wasn't sure I could attend if we didn't resolve everything before then. Jake's eyes darted to the phone. What does it say? I swallowed hard. Just a reminder about the wedding. His groan echoed my own internal dread. The ticking clock of obligation loomed over every decision we had made. We couldn't run from what awaited us. The wedding was a reality we must confront together. What impact would our next conversation have on the family gathering? The drive to our father's office felt surreal, a blend of anxiety and anticipation swirling in my stomach. As the familiar city skyline came into view, I couldn't help but reflect on the pivotal conversation Jake and I had just begun. Our resources could be leveraged to breathe new life into our father's legacy. And yet everything felt unsteady, as if we were balancing on a tightrope strung high over uncertainty. I parked and took a moment to collect myself, leaning against the steering wheel and closing my eyes. I envisioned what could unfold in that meeting. Would Dad push back against our ideas, or could he be open to a collaborative vision? The thought of confronting my father gave rise to my insecurities. I questioned whether I was truly ready to challenge the man whose shadow loomed so large over my life. As I entered the building, the scent of polished wood and fresh coffee filled the air, a stark reminder of the world Dad had cultivated. I stepped into the meeting room, where both Jake and our father were waiting, Jonathan Matthews successful, respected, and commanding in his presence. His gaze flicked to me, a mixture of warmth and dominion that struck a chord of familiarity and discomfort. Hallie, glad you made it, he said, his voice booming. I'm eager to hear what you and Jake have planned. I exchanged a sideways glance with Jake, who nodded slightly, providing an anchor in the sea of uncertainty I felt. This was not just a meeting about wedding plans. It was our chance to introduce an entirely new paradigm for the business. Thanks, Dad, I began, clearing my throat. Jake and I have been discussing our future and the direction we believe the business could take. We think it's important to innovate while still maintaining the essence of what you've built. Dad's smile faltered just a little, giving way to an analytical expression. Changing direction can be risky. Our foundation is what ensures our stability. Are you both ready to handle what that might entail? His question struck sharply, and I felt the weight of his scrutiny. Could I respond with conviction? I nodded, driven by newfound clarity. Absolutely. but we need to adapt to the changing market and our personal growth. We want to have meaningful roles that resonate with our passions. There is so much potential for us to expand. We're ready to lead, but we need your guidance to ensure it aligns with my legacy. Jake leapt in, enthusiasm replacing the earlier tension. It's about stepping into our identities, Dad. We're doing this together, as a team, not in opposition to the hard work you've done. We intend to honor your vision while creating our own. For a moment, silence enveloped the room. Dad leaned back, contemplating. I could almost see gears grinding within his mind. Finally, he spoke. I admire your ambition, but know that this will not come without challenges. Leadership isn't about taking all the credit. It requires selflessness and resilience. Yes, and we're both prepared for that, I assured him, though my heart raced. His approval felt crucial to the path I wanted to carve out. But my resolve was anchored in the collaboration that was emerging between Jake and me, and I fought the urge to retreat into the uncertainty that had plagued me for so long. Let us talk specifics then, Dad replied, now with a hint of enthusiasm. You'll need a solid plan that resonates with both our values and the realities of the business. Let us discuss how you envision the transition. As we began outlining our ideas, my initial fears began to ebb away, replaced by an invigorating sense of possibility. This conversation held the potential to reshape our destinies, and for the first time, I felt not like an extension of my father, but as an equal partner in our family journey. But as we discussed the logistics, a sudden thought struck me: the wedding was looming, a personal commitment that threatened to unravel my new ambitions. Would our shared vision withstand the pressures of family expectations? Dad, my voice trembled slightly, cutting through the strategic banter. What if we don't see eye to eye by the time of the wedding? If we're to embrace change, how do we do that while juggling these familial expectations? Jake looked at me, concern shimmering in his eyes. The air grew heavy, silence falling again as my father considered the implications of my question. Then, just before he could respond, my phone buzzed again, another message. My heart felt suspended in that pivotal moment. There was more at stake here than just business. It was about our family's unity, our values, and ultimately, our identities. Will my father support our evolution despite the fear of disruption? This was just the beginning of a turning point, but it all rested upon the next revelation. How would our family react to change, especially on such a monumental day? As Hallie stood at the precipice of her collaboration with her brother and their father, an undeniable sensation coursed through her. This pivotal point marked a transformation that resonated deep within her core. The echoes of her father's voice reminded her of the importance of stepping into one's truth, grappling with the legacies left behind while forging a new path forward. I know this is a critical juncture for all of us. Hallie spoke with resoluteness, her gaze steady on her father. Change doesn't mean we discard what has been built. It means we stand on its foundation and elevate it, making it fit the realities of who we are today. Her father's expression softened, the earlier tension relieved by her sincerity. Your mother believed in expansion through innovation. Yet, she often reminded me that progress is a dance between tradition and rejuvenation. In that moment, Hallie felt the weight of both her lineage and her ambitions settle upon her shoulders, a dual responsibility to honor the past while embracing the promise of the future. She glanced at Jake, seeing the determination mirrored in his eyes, a silent acknowledgement that they were ready to tackle the unknowns together. Dad, she continued, finding courage in the alliance with Jake, we have a genuine opportunity to redefine our family's business of vision that combines our individual aspirations while maintaining its essence. My wishes are simple. I want you both to succeed, but at what cost? Jonathan asked, a hint of challenge threading through his voice. The stakes were mounting. Hallie felt the flush of anticipation at her very foundation, a sense of purpose anchoring her convictions. The cost is worth it, Dad. Not just for business' sake, but because we owe it to ourselves to shape our paths. Allow us that chance. The silence that followed was pregnant with potential. As the unresolved hovered just above the surface, accompanied by the specter of the upcoming wedding, a moment most cherished, yet now burdened by their looming internal conflicts. Hallie sensed that this meeting was not merely transactional. It was about laying the groundwork for their identities amidst the family legacy. To build trust between all of us, we must ensure transparency. Hallie reached for a page of their father's original business plan. See, if we incorporate aspects of our own visions into existing frameworks, your legacy expands while we remain in harmony. Jake nodded enthusiastically. We can map out a proposal to guide us and combine it with your insights, Dad. The wedding could signify not just the union of two lives, but also the unification of our ambitions. Let it be the rebirth of the Matthews name. Finally, Jonathan leaned back, his thoughtful gaze resting on both of them. Perhaps the essence of leadership lies in recognizing when to adapt. I'll give you both a chance to design your pathway, but know that every decision carries weight. In that moment, Hallie sensed the releasing of chains that had long constrained her ambitions, a transformative acknowledgement of her own agency. She had traversed through fear and self-doubt to arrive here, a place of burgeoning leadership alongside her brother. The air that once felt thick now sparkled with promise and rejuvenation. As they wrapped up discussions, Hallie caught a flicker in her father's demeanor, a bridge closing the gap that once seemed insurmountable between them. With each conversation, she could feel their familial ties tightening, reforging the bonds that had begun to fray. This newly defined legacy was becoming a testament to the power of authenticity, where conversations birth cohesion rather than division. Throughout this journey, know that you will also be changing my perspective, Jonathan remarked, his eyes twinkling with warmth. The shared understanding felt substantive, the embrace of innovation harmonized with the deep-rooted respect for their family traditions. Stepping out of the meeting room with Jake, Hallie felt lighter. Do you think he truly believes we can pull this off? Jake asked with a mix of apprehension and excitement. Yes, Hallie grinned, the euphoric release of potential surging within her. This newfound path will require understanding and adaptation from all of us, especially with the wedding close by. Yet we must keep navigating through our truths together. As they drove home, an invigorating confidence enveloped Hallie. She was no longer the silent daughter tethered to legacy. She had emerged as a leader, redefining her identity side by side with Jake while honoring their father's teachings. The day of reckoning approached, not to break them apart, but to unify them. Today was about more than just confronting truths. It was about realizing strength within their familial ties. The upcoming wedding was imprinted with fresh beginnings. Hope surged as they entered this new chapter of their lives, not simply as heirs to a legacy, but as pioneers charting their own course. Hallie took a deep breath, anticipation shimmering ahead. The challenges were many, but armed with purpose and clarity, she felt ready to fully step into her transformation. The risks were daunting, yet she was resolute, ready to embrace the unfolding narrative of her life. You need to subscribe now to witness how this emotional journey unfolds. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others discover this story. I want to hear from you. Comment your reactions and theories about Hallie and Jake's journey. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. Your support shapes the future of heartfelt stories like this.